Hi guys, and welcome back to this episode of
The Result Show.
The Result Show. And what we're going to be doing now is, as promised, we're going to be starting on a series of videos and indeed podcasts for those of you listening right with your ears about how NLP can be complemented and extended with technologies such as Huna, hypnosis, and indeed timeline therapy.
Right.
And so for the first one of these videos, we're going to dive into something that I know, David, is very, very close to your heart, which is the ancient Hawaiian art of Huna.
Yeah. So when I did my NLP practitioner training in May 1993, the training that I did also, as we're going to mention, we're going to talk about in future episodes, also integrated timeline therapy and hypnosis as well as NLP. But then there were early morning sessions. I traveled all the way from London to Orange County, Southern California. I had spent all my money to get there, including selling, some personal possessions like shortwave radio and all those kind of things to pay for the flight and all that kind of stuff. So
See, that's dedication. That's what it takes to make it, isn't it?
I was invested.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Committed.
I should have been committed. And
Set them up, you knock them down.
and so there was early morning sessions. So I thought, I've travelled all this way, I've spent all this money, I'm going to go to all these early morning sessions. One of them was on this thing called Huna, which I'd never heard of before. But I thought, well, I'm going to go. I've paid for it. And Dad did this Huna morning session, and he started the session with an Hawaiian chant. And as soon as he started chanting this chant, all the hairs on my body stood up on it, and like a cat plugged into the mains. And although consciously I knew I'd never heard this chant before, I knew what was coming next.
Interesting.
So at that point in time, I went, okay, I'm going to add Huna to my shopping list. And obviously at that time, it's different now, and we've been instrumental in changing this. You could only learn Huna in Hawaii. And there's no getting around it. Hawaii is a long way away from the UK.
Well, it's almost pretty much on the opposite side of the planet, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, was it 10-hour flight to LA? Then you get on another flight. The airplane takes off from LAX, turns left. And then you don't see anything other than water for 5 hours. So,
Yeah.
it is literally in the middle of nowhere. So basically, I focused on doing my NLP training, became a master practitioner, and became a trainer of NLP. So I could start running NLP certification trainings to make the money to go and learn Huna.
Yes.
Yeah. And so finally I had money to get enough money, about 12 months later, to go out to Hawaii to learn Huna. And again, I had this weird experience. I was meditating in what's called a heiau, which is an Hawaiian temple. And the Hawaiian temples aren't like the temples that we know of. It's basically a bunch of rocks.
Yes.
So if ever you see a stack of rocks in Hawaii, you leave it alone because it's a sacred site and it's a temple. So I'm meditating there by the side of the Pacific Ocean. And in my meditation, I'm transported. So I'm no longer by the side of the Pacific Ocean. I was right high up, top of a very high mountain, so high that when I looked down, there was clouds between me and the ocean below.
Yes.
And I got a Hawaiian word or a Hawaiian name came into my head, which was Paleo Ikalani. I didn't know if that was my name. I didn't know if it was the name of where I was or anything like that. And, I didn't know any Hawaiian at that point in time. So I thought, when class starts, I'll go to Tad and ask him to translate this
Yes.
name that I got. So when class started, I went up to him and said I was meditating. I got this name. Didn't tell him what was in my meditation, my vision, if you like. And I said, I got this name. And he said, what was it? I said, Paleo Ikalani. So he wrote it down on a 5x4 card, and he said, like that, and he showed it to me. And I went like, yeah, that would be it. Because Hawaiian, when it's transliterated into English alphabet, is essentially phonetic.
Yes.
But where the vowels are pronounced more like they are in Portuguese or Spanish rather than they are in English. And he, okay, one of the translations, so that would be the highest cliff of the heavens.
Wow, okay.
Which is exactly what I'd had in my meditation. So again, it was like goosebump time. And that was, when I really started learning Huna. And, it complements NLP very well. NLP is mind-centric. And it's one of the most effective tools, I think, for learning to take control of your own mind.
Yes. And we actually said, didn't we, that when it was originally created in 1973, they deliberately left anything that was esoteric out of it because it was, in the middle of what I would call Hunter S. Thompson territory.
Yeah. So, it's really a fabulous tool set for learning to take control of your own mind, how to make your own mind do what you want it to do, rather than running amok and waking up in the middle of the night and scaring the shit out of you.
I hate it when it does that.
And it's also a very effective tool set, if you like, for learning how to communicate effectively with other people.
Yes.
Or what we might call influencing skills. But it doesn't have in it any concept of energy. And also, it doesn't really enable you to discover who you are. I know we're going to talk about this in future episodes, but NLP, great toolkit, running your own mind, learning how to communicate effectively with other people. Timeline therapy, great tool set for gaining emotional freedom, removing limiting mindsets. Hypnosis, we're going to talk about in a future episode, great techniques for learning how to communicate effectively with yours and other people's unconscious mind.
Yes.
But none of those really are a description of who you really are as a human being. Huna adds that missing piece out of the jigsaw puzzle. Because NLP, therapy, hypnosis have the idea that we have two minds. Conscious mind that we think with, unconscious mind that we feel with, runs our behaviors, etc. Huna adds a third mind. Once you've learnt Huna and if somebody asks you a question, you can then very congruently say, I'm not sure, I'm in three minds about that. And, your higher self, which is the third mind, also called Aumakua in Hawaiian, which translates to totally trustworthy guardian parental spirit.
So it's actually quite a concise language, Hawaiian, in many ways, isn't it?
Yes, because there are less letters in the Hawaiian alphabet than the English alphabet.
Yes.
So therefore there's less combinations, which means there's less words, which means the words have to work harder.
Yes.
Now, English is a very ambiguous language. Yeah. Hawaiian is even more ambiguous, right? So, Aumakua, totally trustworthy guardian parental spirit. Other name for your higher self is Kane, K-A-N-E. Now, Kane is also the name of the creator of the universe.
Right, okay.
So your higher self and the creator of the universe have the same name. Totally coincidental, I'm sure, as he shakes his head no. What did the Hawaiians know, what did the Hawaiians want to communicate to us that we knew, is that your higher self is the creator of your universe. Yeah. And if we looked at a model of multiple lifetimes, reincarnation, etc., then the one thing that each of those lifetimes has in common is your higher self.
Yeah.
So your higher self is who you really, truly are. And so, in a particular lifetime, according to the ancient Hawaiian philosophy of Huna, is that in each lifetime, what you pick up is a conscious mind and an unconscious mind. So you start out as being a higher self, you pick up a conscious mind, unconscious mind, you live through your life, and then when you pass over, or whatever you might want to call it, you become just your higher self again.
Right.
And then you pick up another conscious mind and unconscious mind. So your higher self is the true you, which is why, I say that when you add Huna to the collective, if you like, of NLP, time-line therapy, and hypnosis, it enables you to discover who you truly are.
Is it almost like, it's in terms of the relationship, that would you almost like say, it's almost a bit like a video game. So for instance, I am always me, but then if I go and play a game, then there'll be another, like a character or an avatar.
Avatar, yeah.
Yes, which temporarily exists for the duration of that game.
Yes.
And then disappears, but I will always exist.
Yes. And what it also presupposes is that you are not your thinking, you are not your emotions, you are not your values, you are not your beliefs, you are not your behaviors. You're way more than that. And, the higher self is timeless and infinite. So it really adds another dimension to the experience of being you.
Yes.
And, Tony Robbins, I don't know if you necessarily think of Tony Robbins as being like a spiritual teacher, but in his book, Awaken the Giant Within, he does allude to this, because he says the big mistake that most people make is they believe that they're a physical being here to have a spiritual experience. Whereas he said, in natural fact, it's the other way around. You're a spiritual being here to have a physical experience.
Yes.
You were spiritual before you came in, and you'll be spiritual when you go out. The purpose of life, big picture purpose of life, is to experience being this infinite spirit in the finite realm of the physical world.
Yes.
Yeah. But he'd also say that no matter who you think you are, you're always more than that. So that's what Huna adds to that dimension. Then, of course, we've got the dimension of energy, which doesn't appear in NLP.
Yeah.
As we mentioned, it doesn't appear in NLP quite deliberately. And therefore, within Huna, we have another set of tools working with mana, or working with energy, for mental, emotional, and physiological healing. And so, and it you don't need to know NLP to learn Huna. You don't need to know Huna to learn NLP. And what I've noticed is my most effective Huna practitioners, for want of a better word, are the people that have not only learned Huna, they've also learned NLP.
Yeah.
Because Huna's got some massively powerful healing processes to enable people to get rid of mental, emotional, and physiological issues. But Huna doesn't come with tools and techniques to enable somebody to discover what the real issue is. Whereas NLP does give you that.
It almost sounds like, if you think of your brain as a computer, for instance, NLP is very good at being almost like, do you remember like back in the day where you used to have to do things like defragment your disk and all the rest of it? So it's quite good in terms of making sure that what's happening within that box is running. But then Huna then allows you to, A, plug it into a you plug it into the wall, so it's not trying to just constantly run on its own battery, so it's getting a lot of energy. And it's also then gives it a network connection to the infinite, for the want of a better phrase.
Yeah, I mean, my analogy for it is that, you know, before I got into doing what I do now, I was a software engineer.
Yeah.
Working for Reuters Trading Room Systems, and we were creating the first Reuters intelligent workstation. Before then, there was just the green screen, which just gave you the figures of share prices, foreign exchange rates. And now you've probably seen on the news where you've got traders that've got screens on their desk and they're plotting graphs, they're doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So we were creating the first one of those. And we were programming in C++. And literally it was probably tens, if not hundreds of thousands of lines of code. And, you know, whenever somebody's trading room system went down, doesn't matter what time, doesn't matter what day, you're called in.
Yeah.
Because you've got, a trading floor that may have invested billions of pounds into the market. The system's gone down. They can't get the money out. They don't know what's happening.
So I imagine that's quite a stressful environment.
You get called in.
Yes.
And so then, you know, and the system's completely collapsed. So then what you've got to do is work out where the problem is. So, you know, you've got various, you know, folders with the computer printout in for the different modules within this thing. So you've firstly got to identify what module do we think the problem's in. Then you take that code down and you've got to wade through the code to find what's caused this catastrophic crash.
Yes.
And more often than not, it would be like somebody had forgotten to put a semicolon on the end of a line.
Yeah.
Or
Syntax error at line 1201.
Yeah. Or they were doing what's called an array, where they'd gone 1 to 10 rather than 0 to 9.
Yes.
And so once you'd found that, all you got to do was put a semicolon on. Or, you know, change it from 0 to 9, from 1 to 10. Rebuild it, and it works fine. So there was catastrophic failure caused by this minuscule error.
For the want of a horseshoe nail.
And what NLP enables you to do is, if we're working with somebody and they're in this equivalent catastrophic state in their life, then it's the same process of finding where's the missing semicolon.
Yes. A diagnostic function.
Where's the, you know, array going from 1 to 9 rather than 1 to 10 rather than 0 to 9. And then the fix is very simple. So Huna's got some very effective tools and techniques for doing the fix. NLP has some great techniques for finding the missing semicolon.
Yes.
And I think, you know, one of the things I've noticed is, and this is what I find a lot of in the NLP world, is that the NLP practitioner is a bit like the App Store on Apple, where Apple will go, we've got an app for that.
Yes.
Yeah. And so a client comes in and the NLP practitioner goes, we've got a technique for that.
Yeah.
And immediately going to do the intervention. But what they're doing is they're working on something that's not the problem, which means they get a result that's not the result.
Yes.
And the client leaves going, NLP doesn't work. But NLP does work, but they didn't apply it to the appropriate thing.
And this actually goes back to what we were talking about in terms of one of the objectives for this particular podcast, is to actually showcase the art of the possible and try to undo some of the damage that's been done by, especially in these days of online training.
Yeah.
People just, you know, kind of like basically grabbing an NLP qualification, having flicked through the manual and paid their $7, sticking it on the wall,
Yep.
and then kind of like using it as a club rather than a fine instrument.
So, you know, I put a video up on YouTube of where I was in Tokyo, because we just ran a training last month in Tokyo. and there's one of the delegates there who were having a chat over coffee, and she basically set up her own business. And later that day, she got an opportunity of doing her first ever presentation to a live audience to present her business. And she had a phobia of public speaking.
Yes, which is not uncommon.
Nope, it's not at all. In the US, it's the most common phobia.
Yes.
Put it into perspective, it's the number one fear is public speaking, whereas the number two fear is dying. So people in the US would rather die than speak in public. We're a bit more balanced than that in the UK. That's the number two fear in the UK, whereas the number one fear is spiders, which again is a little bit crazy because we don't really have any dangerous spiders in the UK. So, I did a demonstration. I wanted to do a demonstration that was quick. So I chose to use Huna. And so I demonstrated a technique that used to be called higher self therapy or ku'u on this phobia of public speaking. And it was gone in probably less than 2 minutes. So Huna is a lot quicker than NLP or timeline therapy.
Yes.
And though you've got to apply it to the right thing.
I have to say there's because one of my favourite techniques, as you know, of Huna is the Hakala one.
Yeah.
In terms of peripheral vision, I remember I was doing so. We were about to go on stage, and this was actually an amateur production. It was like a Shakespeare play that we were doing down in Devon. And I was with a bunch of the guys who were about to go on, and some of these guys were visibly nervous because, of course, it's amateur, so it's people from all walks of life. And I basically told them about the Hakala technique in terms of, widening your peripheral vision, all the rest of it, and then and they said, and they just went on stage and they said, "Thank you, that has made such a difference." And let's say it's something which is applicable to everybody. It's not something you don't need to believe in anything for it to be effective, and it's something that you can explain to somebody in literally 2 minutes.
And it's based on neuroscience.
Yes, that's the thing. It is actually it's real.
Yeah, I mean, I know I was asked to train professional stand-up comedians, NLP, to integrate NLP into their act to make to improve their act. And these weren't like guys who'd just gone along, for something to do. They were professional stand-up comedians. Many of them were doing like 7 gigs a week.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they all had in common was performance anxiety. To the point, I mean, it's interesting. Brian Ferry, you would think, that he doesn't have performance anxiety. When he was performing, he couldn't get on stage until he drank a litre of vodka. I wonder if that's how he developed his kind of like singing style.
Well, they say that Laurence Olivier used to be physically ill before almost every performance.
Another was the pianist Jimmy Durante.
Yes.
Yeah, with a big notes. Everyone was sitting my piano. He would physically throw up.
Yeah.
Before going on stage. And, so I've got these, I said to these stand-up comedians, I said, okay, well, do you want to get rid of it? And they go, is that possible? I thought, like that. So I taught them Hakala. And I can remember there was this one guy, he made Tony Robbins look small. And so I did, peripheral vision with this guy. And literally what he goes, he said, "What the fuck just happened?" I went, "What do you mean?" He goes, "My anxiety's gone." I went, "Right, there you go."
Yeah.
So in, Fix My Mind, it's, because the majority of people who come to Fix My Mind are coming for some kind of anxiety problem.
Yes.
Whether it be panic attacks, whether it be insomnia, whether it be phobia, And one of the go-to techniques is Hakala.
Yeah.
One, because it works. 2, because it's quick. 3, because it's portable.
Yes.
People can take it wherever they want. And it comes from Huna.
So that is a quick overview of Huna. It is lovely, and we are going to be diving into this a lot more as the series progresses.
Yeah.
But again, just to give you an overview of kind of how that plays neatly with NLP to produce the results that we want. Now, I think what we're going to do is wrap it up there, and then we will be back for our next episode, which is where we're going to see how NLP goes out and plays nicely in the snow with its friend hypnosis.
Okay.
So sorry, just inspired by as you can see, the weather around us. We're recording this up in David's beautiful home in Nottinghamshire, and it's looking through the window. It looks like a Christmas card. It's just when you go out, it starts to get slightly crunchy and slippy. Yes,
as I experienced yesterday, landing on my arse underneath somebody else's car.
So, but we are nevertheless going to crack on and bring you the next episode. So thank you very much indeed, David. And for you guys, if you've got any questions or comments, please drop them to us at podcast@theresultshow.com. And we will see you next time for NLP and hypnosis. See you then.
See you.